Hi, everybody, and welcome back to our next episode of Small Town Music with still just me. Today, I wanted to focus on communication, and I have three main points about communication with parents, communication with administrators, and communication with students, which I feel like is something that we often overlook or don't remember as being as important or even more important than communicating with your parents that you work with, the admins that you work with, your coworkers, all of those people. So to dive right in, starting out with parents, because that's obviously a really big thing. If you're a new teacher, if you're not a new teacher, you know that communication with your parents is incredibly important. I think I've said this almost every episode, but parents are our partners, and whether they're really helpful partners or not, I hope for your sake they're helpful, but communication is important. My first year of teaching, I did not communicate very well. Just there's so much going on, and that's like not a class that's covered in college, like how to email parents. Hopefully, your professors are talking to you about it, but if not, I'm here to talk to you about it. So, be consistent, clear, and make sure your emails are easy to read. It's really easy to get bogged down in the details and to just add a bunch of information that isn't necessarily necessary. I talked a little bit about this in my recruitment episode, but I had opened up like a letter that I had previously given to elementary students that they're supposed to give to their parents to send home. And I was just reading, it's like 3 pages, single space, like point 1211 font. And like it had a lot of really good information, but it was a lot of stuff to read. And now I'm on the flip side of things as a parent. Like if you don't give me bullet points, I'm probably gonna miss some really important information. I've posted some on our Instagram and our TikTok, but I really like my weekly newsletter. It's very helpful for me to keep track of things, and I always send it out Monday morning, and I feel like that's a really easy, consistent thing that parents know to expect, that like Monday morning they're going to get my newsletter and it's going to give them an idea of what events we have for the week or what might be coming up or things that I might need. The newsletter has like a little paragraph that I'll give some information about something that I want to go into deeper detail. And then I'll have like upcoming events, bullet points, and then I'll have like a monthly, like looking ahead kind of calendar thing in the corner. And then I'll have like a here's my email, here's how to get a hold of me section. And then in the second page, I have it's all about PodBean because that's just got to be its own separate animal right now. In the email, I will also give bullet points of important events and things that are coming up for everyone to be able to understand. It's laid out really well. It looks pretty. I use Canva. I think I've talked about Canva also every single episode, but that's my favorite tool. One of my favorite tools as a teacher that I've discovered. I do everything on Canva, and it's just really helpful and nice. I try to send one email a week. If we have a lot of events going on, there's going to be multiple, and especially like for right now, our basketball games, we're heading into tournament time, so it's really like up in the air, and I really want to get information out to parents immediately. So that means I have to send more emails, and we just have more stuff going on. So ideally, 1 to 2 emails a week. You don't want to flood parents with information. Sending out 17 emails a week, it just, then they stop reading them. I know a lot of people use either Remind or Slack messaging. I know there's like the Band app and the GroupMe and Remind and JibJab and Chit Chat, and I don't know, there's probably a million different group messaging apps that you can do with parents. I really liked Remind because it could just send text messages, and that was really helpful for parents. They can sign up, they don't have to get a separate app. I have found that with Slack, I don't have a lot of parent involvement because they have to like download an app, and that's really frustrating for them. So I'll probably be going back to Remind, but that is a really helpful thing, especially when we're traveling and on field trips to be able to communicate with parents to say, like, hey, we're leaving. Like, every kid theoretically has a cell phone, but not all kids. And a lot of times kids' phones die because they're watching too many TikTok videos. I I in my first couple years teaching would get really upset about parents emailing me, not emailing, Facebook messaging me or trying to text me or call me like on my personal phone. Like I would get really frustrated with that because there are so many other ways to communicate with me. But I think we live in a world where the communication is just so easy for everybody. And I think people either they figure out how to get a hold of you the fastest. So they know like if they text you, then that's going to be a really quick and easy way that you are going to respond the fastest. Or if they Facebook message you, or that's just how they prefer to communicate. That might be just one way that like they just keep everything together. If they're on their phone, they're gonna Facebook message or whatever. So I have not gotten as I've gotten a little more relaxed about people having my cell phone number as I've gotten more integrated into the community. But if you want to keep that boundary, you keep that boundary, and you only communicate via um, email or whatever form of communication that is your way to communicate. So yeah, communicating with parents. Also remember to communicate good news too. It's important to let the parents know if their students are misbehaving, if there's a discipline issue, if there's any problems you're having. But also remember that as a parent, I love hearing about the great things that my kids do too. And in the middle of a day, it's also really helpful for you. It kind of gives you a boost of gratitude that you are recognizing all these positive things that are happening and going on in your classroom. And like, you may have had a tough day, or it may have, you know, concert preparation is not going well, or this new skill you're trying to teach did not go over very well. But if you kind of sit down and remember, like, okay, who is really great in my class today? Like, who is doing a really good job? Who was working hard? And who do I want to like call home and give that, especially if the kid is not used to getting good notes home, that that will be a big game changer for them if they get a phone call from school and it's something that's really positive instead of something that's really sad. Moving on to communicating with administrators. That, um, again, be consistent and clear. That's like rule number one of this episode is being consistent and being clear. If you have discipline problems, obviously, however your admins want to communicate, we have our like grade book system that has the discipline notices that we write up the discipline notice and it gets sent to the administrator, and then also like we send it to the parents and everyone gets notified and involved. We don't just like email like, oh, these kids should have a lunch detention. So I like that system because that's a very clear like form recognizable system that we can use. But remember that too much discipline can have the opposite effect. Then like kids just don't respond to it anymore. So making sure that you use it when it's appropriate. I try very hard to not write kids up. That's kind of my last last ditch effort, last resort. I try to deal with it in house as much as possible, but also if a kid is literally throwing a tantrum or causing major behavioral issues, then um, if your class time and instruction time is being hindered because of that student, then yeah, like they need some higher level discipline. There was a video that I saw this week. I'll have to find it again. But it talked about reasons to have a kid removed from class, and I know one of them was like, are they causing physical harm to themselves or to other people? Are they hindering the instruction for other people? Are they stopping instruction and learning from happening for the rest of the class? And I think that's a really good checklist to have in your mind of when do I um, when do I kind of write them up or contact the principal. I I used to try to use a check system. So, like, check one is a warning, check two is you have to, like, clean up trash off the floor or something, or like you're released a little bit later than everyone else, which is really tricky because you don't want to make kids late to class. Like, that's not great to do. Check three was a lunch detention, and then check four was I send you to the office. And that's in a class period. Like, every day it was supposed to reset. And that was just a lot to keep track of in the middle of a class that's already really hard to keep track of everything. For me personally, that might work well for you. But I used that as kind of my litmus test for how many times have I had to stop class and make a note of a kid doing something that they're not supposed to be doing. If it's more than two times, then I need to write them up because they have now caused enough disruptions to stop class for multiple minutes. So that's what I do for discipline, which that's a whole other episode we can go back to. Also tell your admins good things. They don't. I mean, obviously they want to know your problems and what you need help with, but also tell them the really good things that are happening in your class, even if it seems small to them. That might make their day. That you're reaching out saying like, hey, the band is finally learning their scales and they're sounding really good, or like, yeah, we went to contest and we didn't exactly get the scores we wanted, but we did better than we did last year, so that was really good. It's also a good idea to know when to talk to them about budgets and when you want to make big purchases. I try to keep a running list of things, and I remind my admins often, or I try to remind them often about things coming up that we're going to need to purchase. So when there is some extra money in the budget, or it's our turn to get some extra, I call it capital project funding or whatever, then I can have that in their head already that, oh, I know the band needs XYZ. So we're going to save some of that back, or we're going to make sure we get this for them. I've been able to we got new uniforms recently. We got a new set of chimes while I've been here. We've got some new bass drums since I've been here. There's been a lot of things that we've been able to get that have been really helpful. Um, if you are in a position where you're doing sports band, if you have pep band for basketball games, or you have football games that you're doing things, or marching band, or if you're involved with kind of an athletic side of things, make sure you're in good communication with your athletic director to know when they need you at games, what they expect from you to do things, and how they want you to show up and do things. Are there certain traditions? Are there certain games that are more important than others? Do they want to make sure that you're at every single home game? And if you are at every single home game, are you getting compensated for that time appropriately? All those kind of things. Especially if you're new to this school. So I was really lucky that I got to student teach with this school, so I knew what to expect already, and that that was really helpful, knowing that during basketball season we do all the tournament games and we travel and we have to make sure that the other school has music stands for us, so the athletic director needs to contact the other athletic director to make sure that happens, and all those. There's a million things that kind of get lost in the shuffle, especially if you have different admins or different people doing different jobs. Okay, my final bullet point here, communicating with students. And I think that there's so many things, we can talk about. So when I need to get information to students about events happening or things going on, I have I have a really long hallway when you walk into my room, and I have a whiteboard. It's like a sticker essentially that sticks on the wall. It's like a whiteboard, dry erase board, and I write all of our upcoming events, all that I can fit on the board, so kids can easily like take a picture of that board and have it on their phone and know like, oh, that's what I need to do. I also have it on I have like a presentation slideshow for the class, to like the agenda, like what are we doing in class that day. And I have upcoming events on that. I also verbally tell them in class every day what our upcoming events are. I try to post it on Google Classroom. I try to, include them in my weekly newsletter emails so that they know what's going on week to week. Oh, I apologize. It is late. I'm ready for bed. Um, so putting it in multiple places is very helpful. It's helpful for me, but it's also helpful for kids that they're seeing it and hearing it multiple times. Paper handouts are still really helpful and useful, especially for younger kids who will have, like, they'll put it in their folder and they'll take it home and do all that stuff. Again, be consistent and clear. You don't want to bog them down with like a million bullet point items and going on and droning about all the events that can really have the opposite effect. When you're communicating just one on one with a student, make sure you're talking at their level, but you're not talking down to them. You're not treating them like they're dumb kids, essentially. They are they are kids, and you are the adult and the authority figure, and you want to make sure that you are recognizing that, but you also want to make sure that students do not feel like you're treating them less than. Um, it is important to talk to them at the level that they need to be talked to. They can be your biggest supporters, and they can also not be your biggest supporters depending on how you interact with them. Knowing your kids and knowing how to comfortably talk to them is really important. So if you know you can kind of joke around and be a little sassy with kids, that's fine. If you don't have that established yet with a student, if you are trying to be funny and they are not understanding the joke and you've potentially hurt their feelings, but you don't understand that you've hurt their feelings, that can be a really big problem. I know I've gotten into that before where I thought I was being kind of funny or jokey, and the student, it did not, that message was not conveyed to the student, and they were really upset, and so I had to um, go back to that student and apologize. Also apologize to your students when you've done something not okay. That's really important too. So those are kind of the main things. When you're communicating, be consistent, be clear, be concise, especially with parents. Even with kids too, if you're like droning on and on and on, they're not gonna pick up what you're putting down. So we are on multiple social media platforms. We're on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, PodBean, all kinds of places. You can email us, smalltownmusicpodcast@gmail.com. Find us if you search small town music, you'll be sure to find us. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear what you want. This podcast is for you. It's not just for me to talk about my feelings about certain educational topics, but let me know what you need and I will be happy to do an episode. But thank you so much for listening or watching, and we'll see you next time.